Good evening, everyone. Welcome to God's Prepared Warrior Roundtable Live. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. All right. Thank you, Scott, for the 5x5. Thank you so much. All right. I'm glad you guys can hear me. You might say, Fernando, you're in a different location. I am. Thank you, Brother Glenn, for the 5x5. I definitely am in a new location. My wife and I are here at my daughter's house and my son-in-law's house. We were celebrating their fur baby's second year birthday, and so we were invited to come and take fun in the festivities. So, welcome, guys, to God's Prepared Warrior Live. Glenn, thank you for joining me. Scott Hummer, thank you for joining me. Celebrating Farm Life, a homesteading journey. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I have heard so much about you from Glenn, and so I am so glad that you guys are here. I started following you guys too as well, and following your channel. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Salt Miss, thank you for being here. Of course, my brother Glenn, thank you for joining me tonight. And I think that, oh yeah, and Aaron is here also. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here tonight. And I think so far that's it. You guys will let me know who else jumps in tonight. So we're doing things totally different, technological wise. Um, I am using my phone, so if sound quality is kind of a little off, it's because of that. And I'm holding you in my hand, so I'm gonna try not to move as much. But tonight, we're gonna do the same kind of thing that we do every night. We are without our TikTok family tonight because I can only do one thing at a time on my phone. So we're not going to attempt to do multiple things on the phone. So, as normal, we'll go over the channel news because the channel news is all about you guys and what you guys are doing with the channel. And like I always say, we do this together, and it's because of you why the channel grows. And so I always share my numbers with everybody because you're part of the growth. And so currently, I don't have any growth for today because I'm on my cell and not on my computer. But as of today, we reached 880 subscribers on YouTube, which is pretty awesome. On TikTok, we are at 3,853 subscribers. On Facebook, we're at 174, and on our Facebook community, we are at 27. Over on X, we are over 1,000 subscribers. I think we're probably somewhere around 1,060, somewhere around there. On Instagram, we are at 986 followers on Instagram. So the channel is growing, and I'm so thankful for that. And it's because of you guys, because y'all are sharing all of our social media, and people are responding to that. So thank you guys for doing that. And so that's the channel news for tonight. And so what I want to do next is kind of share a little bit of some things that I saw in the news, and I try to find things that probably not a lot of people see. And so I am going to be reading off of my notes on my notepad that I took because I don't have my computer. It's so much easier with a computer, but that's okay. So there's something that came out I saw in the news that I thought was important for us to pay attention to. Lithuania, anyway, over there, accuses Belarus, Russia of deliberate escalation of hybrid warfare as balloons shut down the airport. So the balloon thing has come up again, and this time it's not China. It's actually Lithuania. Lithuania. Can't even say that word. Anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about. And so now they're sending balloons because you can actually get a better view with a balloon and scan the area in which way the balloon flows. So because of that, balloons were spotted, and so the airport was shut down because of that. And so there's this huge thing that's happening over there with these balloons, and Russia is sending them over. So that's something to pay attention to. Um, Air Force B-1s fly over near Venezuela in the latest show of force. So I think we're up to like 10 boats or submarines or both that have been blown out of the water over near Venezuela by U.S. forces, and now they are sending Air Force B-1s to fly near Venezuela. Jesus, my tongue doesn't work tonight. So there's actually, I don't know if you guys seen the videos. I'll probably post them out tonight on my social media. But there is video of troops in Venezuela, and they're massive troops. There's a bunch of troops. There's troops on horses. There's troops by foot. I mean, just a massive amount of troops that are actually preparing for escalation. So I'm going to be posting that stuff out tonight so that you guys can see that. So that's happening, and Venezuela is actually coming back and mounting up their forces and getting them ready. Venezuela says that it captured some mercenaries working with the CIA. So the Trump administration has launched multiple lethal strikes, on these alleged drug boats close to Venezuela and Colombia as part of what officials paint as a crackdown on narcotics and trafficking. So that's happening. So there's a lot of escalation there. I think that's important for us to kind of keep watch and keep our eye on, because I think that if anything is to go on first, it's going to be this, because they're trying to capture the oil. We know that's the reason why, right? So just be vigilant about those things happening. I saw this today, and I thought it was pretty important. And I know that it probably wasn't even put out on regular media, but Amazon has a recall update. They have issued a threat to life for the items sold nationwide. So pay attention to this. If you bought anything from Amazon that is a 5-drawer dresser, this is being recalled for threat of life, because it can easily tip over, has tip over risks, and it doesn't have any mounting hardware to be able to mount it to the wall. So, hey Shelly, welcome tonight. It doesn't have, hey Grit and Grace, welcome. It doesn't have anything for you to be able to mount it to the wall. So if you open, I think it's 1 or 2 or even 3 drawers, the whole dresser will fall on top of that person. So, yeah. So Amazon is recalling that for a threat of life. Also, they are recalling for the bio-ionic long barrel curling iron. So there is some hazard with that curling iron, and you know that's a recall. So just be watchful for those things. I mean, if those two things are on a list for recall, and also title threat of life, I think that's pretty important, right? And I would want you guys to pay attention to that. So if you know anybody who have bought those two things, let them know, hey, those are on recall. Russia tested a new nuclear-powered Buroznik cruise missile. This missile flies over 15 hours. So, they're trying for longer reach. I thought that was important to share with you guys today. If you haven't heard about that, It's mind blowing, the media right now about this missile that flies 15 hours long. So be paying attention to that, because that's also another important thing. And because on this channel, that's what we're watching. The war over there that can actually happen over here, right? So be paying attention to that. We also need to be in prayer, not just for all of those things, but for this hurricane, Hurricane Melissa. Right now, it is a Category 5 storm, and it is being labeled as the strongest storm on the planet for 2000 or for 2025. So it is the strongest storm on the planet. When I saw that, I was like, this is pretty big. And I saw some video of them in the eye of the storm, and the wall of that eye is like really, really tall. I mean, they were in the center of it, and it is like so tall, right? And so I'm like, wow, this is really insane. So let's keep, I think it already went through. Um, I think it already went through Haiti, and I think it's now on the path. I think it said the outer rings of the hurricane is now hitting Jamaica. It's getting rain and all that kind of stuff. So this thing is pretty huge. It's dumping a huge amount of water, and we already know what that can do, just in our experience here in the U.S. Right? Um, it's now Category 5. Its winds are 175 miles per hour. So let's keep people in prayer, because this thing is super, super huge. Vision Preparedness, welcome in, my friend. Thank you for joining us tonight. Um, Thank you so much for coming in. You guys are just slipping in here. Shelly's in here. Welcome, guys. Good Grace. Thank you guys for joining us. So I think that we really need to keep these folks in prayer, because they're just poor little nations, and we already know the struggles that Haiti is having with all the stuff that's happening there, and then to top that off, there's this huge hurricane that's barreling their way, and so we just need to pray for these folks, um, and just lift them up to God, because that is just a really, really huge, huge, huge thing. So that's the news that I have chosen for all of us tonight to go over, because I have a huge topic that I want to talk about. And, you guys probably already kind of know probably what I'm going to talk about, because I talked about it today, very little in my video this morning. And I've had a few people ask me to talk about it, and to get my perspective on this thing. So tonight in the chat down here, I would like for all of you to kind of chime in as we go along on this topic, and I want to hear what you guys have, or what you guys think about this. So I want to talk tonight about the EBT SNAP benefit thing that is about to happen in the next 5 days, really 4, because our day is almost done. But I want to talk about that because, we already know that there's a risk of it not being issued on November 1st. I'm pretty sure that they are, well, my live in the perfect world thought is that they are working so that people don't have to not go without, right? You know, that's the hope, but that's the perfect world, right? We don't live in a perfect world. But there is this risk of all of these benefits not being um, issued on November 1st. And I think that this is something that all of us, as God's prepared warriors, should be praying about, right? I think it's important. Hey, Code Red Trauma, thank you for joining us tonight. I think it's so important for us to start praying for this thing because we're hearing all sorts of things, right? If you're paying attention, there's all sorts of things that are coming out in social media. But here's the thing: tens of millions of people depend on this thing, right? And I understand and I get it. There are people that shouldn't be on there, and I get that too. Um, but truly, this is going to affect those who really need it. So I think it's something for us to really talk about, right? Um, you know, and if this is not paid, there's going to be a demand for food assistance, um, and there's going to be like a spike in food assistance, right? Food banks, charities are already strained, and I can attest to that because I work for a nonprofit organization that helps people in need, and we are like a food bank. The only thing is we don't just hand out food; we actually connect people. We connect people with people, and they're mentored through the process. So that's what we do where I work. And so it's not just a handout; it's actually a handout, and it's leading them to God through connecting them with families. So we're feeling the strain on that, and we're actually gearing up for what is to come in November if the government doesn't come back on and start working again. So I really wanted to talk about this tonight because I want you guys to hear a different perspective, right? If you go to social media, you're going to see people who are reacting with fear, and they're reacting with anger, right? We're going to see that. And if you are on X, if you are on TikTok, those things are actually already happening, right? You're going to see videos that show threats of people who are angry, and they're threatening to go into the stores, and they're threatening to go steal things from the store, looting the store. There's even AI footage of shoplifting going on. You can tell it's AI, but it is what is in the air on social media, right? And so I want to talk about what we do as uh, God's prepared warriors for this, knowing that it's coming, right? Um, so, what do we do? Well, on a high level, we must plan as sober minded Christians and faithful stewards, right? We have to plan. So, with that in mind, I'm not going to talk about the plan. I want to talk about certain things. And this is where you guys can chime in, and let's talk about this because I think it's important, right? Um, Code Red Trauma says, thank you. Last week I was dealing with a theft at a church. Our treasurer took, oh my goodness, that is insane. Oh goodness, I'm going to be praying for you, Code Red. That is nuts. I can't even fathom that. Wow, that is nuts. Scott Humber says, yes, many videos threatening violence and saying it is taxpayers' responsibility to pay for them. And that's not true. Yes, that is terrible, Psalmist. That is so sad. You're right. I'm going to be praying for you, Code Red, in your church. And oh my goodness, that the person, I'm going to be praying for them to the Lord. Man, that is tough. And yeah, and there you go. This is what we're going to see, because the next thing is what will happen if these things happen. If the government doesn't come back on, the government doesn't step in, what will happen? I'm going to tell you. And what will the government do, right? So I'm going to tell you, it is um, if riots happen, right? If people start looting the stores, if people start going crazy, law enforcement is going to step in, of course. That's 100%. If it continues, as we've seen in other areas, other states here in the United States, we will then see a move that the government will issue the National Guard to these uh, places, right? We're going to see that happen. If it continues to escalate, which they believe it is, checkpoints will be put together, curfews will be in place, and all of that is to restore order, right? Um, this will result in roads being closed down. It's going to result in, um, you know, there's going to be a time everyone has to be inside, curfews. I am imagining these are the things that will happen in that order. So if it'll all start with law enforcement, if they can't handle it, National Guard comes in and they begin to do all of these other things, right? This is what will happen if this goes as people think it's going to go, right? Um, what might we see? Oh, well, let me get here. Before I go to the next one, let me see what you guys are saying. Code Red says, it's horrible. We have been devastated. She was a pillar in the community, one on the school board, kids, school. Wow. Thanks for praying. We are clinging to our church family. Yes. Please, 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 please let your church family know that they have another family that they don't know of that is actually praying for them. Thank you, Code Red, for sharing that. We will definitely be praying. Um, Glenn says, that is terrible. Yes, that is very terrible. Whoops. What happened? No, I didn't want that to happen. What's going on here? Okay, there you go. I don't know what to do with my phone. Okay. Psalmist says, praying for your church family. What a devastating situation. Amen. CRT, Vision Preparedness says, Psalmist says, I also work for a nonprofit and have upped the order for food pantry as well. I think there'll be a big spike. Yes, we're already preparing for it where I work. The salary and benefit for all lawmakers should be halted. Yes, I believe that too. Because if that happens, well, they're gonna rush to get things passed so that they can get paid, right? And so I totally believe that too, Aaron. I think that's what needs to happen. Celebrating farm life says it's all part of the plan. You are exactly right. Amen to that. Vision Preparedness says. Um, Scott Humber says to Aaron, 100%. That is true. So what might we see if panic rises? So what happens if November 1st comes and we begin to see all of this happen, right? This looting, people going into stores, stealing things. You know, we've seen where people will bum rush a convenience store. It's like it was like teenagers, I think it was. Tons of teenagers burst into a store and start, stealing from it. We've seen that in the past. And what is to say if all that happens again? So, what will we see if panic arises? I have a few things, and let's talk about them. I put that there will be crowding at stores, right? There's going to be crowding at stores and long lines. This is how it's going to start. Crowding at stores and long lines. Code Red says we have a small food pantry outside our church and already preparing to stock up with food for the community. Good, that's awesome. Scott Humber says there are some stores considering closing until the government is back. And I'm glad you said that, because that is going to be later on. That's going to be one of my points. We're going to see, just like we saw in the riots not too long ago, right? Stores began to close because of the riots. And not only did they close, but they boarded up their windows, they boarded up their doors. Why? Because people were breaking in and looting. So because of that, we're going to begin to see stores close. And you're right on that, Scott. That's actually one of my points. Are you reading my notes, brother? Salt misses can see people getting attacked in the parking lot for their food. And y'all are reading my notes. I swear y'all are. Yeah, that's one of my bullet points on this. That's awesome. All right, so we're going to see crowding at the stores and long lines. So that's how it's going to start. And there are some movies, right, that you can look to where that happens. I can't remember the name. Salt Miss might remember, but Canadian Prepper did he showed this video of this movie. I forgot what the name of it was. I think Salt Miss can remember. And he talked about it, and a part of that movie was people at the store, and they were looting the store because they had gotten word that they were going to be bombed. And so Salt Miss might throw that in there. She's probably digging right now. She's like, "What is it, Fernando? You're putting me on the spot." Aaron says, "This is why we prepare, and hopefully we got what we need ahead of this weekend." That is correct, because that's another point I was going to talk about. you guys are on it, man. Y'all are on it tonight. Okay, so we're going to see crowding in the stores, and we're going to see long lines. And so I was saying was in that movie, uh, it was like that. There was crowding in the stores. There were long lines, and all of a sudden there was fights that were happening over the things inside the store. And so that is how all of that is going to begin, right? Um, there's going to be instances of shoplifting and thefts. We're going to see that rise really high. Shoplifting and theft. We're going to see that. Code Red says, "Vision our church is a little church and in a little town. Uh, the pantry is self-serve. People are welcome to come and get what they need. It may get hairy though." Yeah, that's true. I can see that happening. Vision, I talked to my mom today. No going to the grocery store without me or my brother. That is true. You now have to go with somebody. Man, y'all are stealing all my points. Somebody's reading my material. Glenn says, "God's word, we are." Let's see. We are. We hacked your notes on this. Yeah, I believe it. To Vision, I told my mom the same thing. Yes, and I actually had that conversation with my wife today. We actually need to go to the store for just a few things. Celebrating farm life. To Glenn, good for you. If we got back to the way things should be, neighbors helping neighbors, and quit with all this assistance, we wouldn't be in this position. You're right, and that is another point. Y'all are getting ahead of me. Vision says, "CRT, make sure the men are available if possible." Yes, most certainly. Celebrating farm life says, "Add two vision preparedness." Same here. No one needs to be getting out alone. That is true. All right, so let's get to the notes here. So we will see crowding at the stores and long lines. We'll see instances where shoplifting and thefts are happening. Here's the next one. We're going to see an increase of police presence uh, in the stores, right? Because we now have a police presence in churches. I don't know if your church has a security team. We have a security team in our church, and we also have officers that are there, clothed officers not clothes like they didn't have clothes before, but in uniform. In uniform is what I mean. Officers available at churches where we live. So not only do we have the church security team, but we also now have these officers, and you think that they're there to monitor um, the the traffic, which is true because we're in a tight spot, and so they are out on the street directing traffic, but they are also walking into the church, and they're working alongside the security staff. How do I know? Because they approached me because of my knife that I carry, and it was a big one. And they said, "Sir, can you go take that to your car?" And I said, "Yes, I will put it next to my weapon." The cop looked at me. He knew who I was. Awesome. You guys are all right. You guys are chatting it up over here. Aaron says, "You're the fourth preparedness channel I watch who is sounding the alarm." Yes. Vision says, "Exactly, celebrating farm life. I told my wife the same thing." Yep. Code Red says, "Thanks, Vision. I mentioned it to the security team for sure. We all are armed at church and have security team." Yes, I think we should all be like that too. Vision Preparedness says, "I am in charge of the armed church security team." That's awesome, brother. I didn't know that. All right. That is so cool. We are on high alert. Yes. Um, because my next point says there's going to be an increase of police presence in the store. Here's what you guys were already saying. There is going to be store closures. We're going to see stores closing, right? The next point I have is social media is going to fuel misinformation and or panic videos. So, guys, we have to take care of our family. This is high priority, and it's important for us to go together, and no longer should we not go together, right? So I'm going to be honest with you. My wife is the one who goes to the store and comes back. She's the one that does that. So, I work from 9 to 5, but literally I'm on the road for an hour going to work and then an hour coming back home, sometimes an hour and 15. So just depending on traffic in this huge city that I live in. So I work outside of the city, and so I have to drive out and I have to drive in. So I am literally working from 7:30 when I leave in the morning till 6:30 when I get home. So, that's work and travel time. So she's usually the one that, because she gets off early, she goes to the store, comes back with all the stuff. We can't do that anymore. I'm going to be honest with you. We can't do that anymore because we're going to see a rise in these kinds of things that are happening. So I'm telling you that not to make you fearful. I'm telling you that so that you can be vigilant and that you can be prepared, right? Because that's what we talk about here. We're not about fear, but we are about faith, right? And we do preparedness through faith, right? Um, let's see. Code Red says, I have no plan to step foot in the store anytime soon. I am prepared. Got everything I need. Good. That's good. Celebrating farm life. And men need to teach their wives, sisters, daughters, women um, how to defend themselves. Yes, they do. Vision Preparedness says, plan, prepare, and pray. Amen to that, brother. Amen to that. Salt Mist says, me too. I run a large home pantry. That's awesome. Mike Tango Whiskey, thank you for joining us tonight, my friend. Only shopping on base for a while. Yes, that's good. I'm glad you can do that. My dad was telling me that he was going on base here. He invited me to go. I've never been, so I'm gonna go with him. Code Red Trauma, same here. I want to go. I won't go anywhere near Walmart. I wouldn't either. Or Kroger. So yeah, so these are the things that we might see if panic rises. So it's important because, we're going to see those things happening at the stores. We're also going to see social media fuel misinformation, and we're going to see those panic videos. I don't know if you saw, it's a lady. It's a lady who is in the store, and she's like screaming and she's filming, and there's people in the background, throwing stuff in the baskets, and that's AI. Because when you look at when they show the scene of the people coming in through the doors, the people are actually bigger than the doors. So that's how it's AI. But we're going to see that, and people are going to take it for real. And it's going to be like back in the, was it 50s, 60s, maybe the 40s, when they aired that thing on the radio, and people thought it was a real alien invasion happening. So what we have to be vigilant to those things as well. So how do we respond to that? Number one, I think that if you're going to do any kind of grocery shopping, it needs to be done tomorrow, right? I wouldn't wait any longer, because I can already tell you there's probably already long lines, because people are looking at social media. They know that there's a deadline. They know that people are threatening other people, and they're threatening stores, and they're threatening to do harm. And so people are going to probably make a mad rush this week to the store. So if there's anything you need to top off, that needs to happen this week. If you can, like Mike Tango Whiskey says, go to to the base. If you can shop on base, if you guys have access to that. I don't, but my dad says that I can go with him, because my dad is a veteran. And so there's the possibility for us to do that too as well. So do that. Go grocery shopping this week. It's so important. Don't wait till the weekend, because everybody is going to wait till the last minute, and then there's not going to be anything, or there's just going to be a crowded store. So be mindful of that. Know that we need to do that this week. Let's see. What are you guys saying? You guys you guys are giving each other thumbs up. Let's see. I think the mayhem will go full bloom next week. Yeah, I think so too. Who said that? Vision Preparedness said that. Saltness says yes. I am set for quite a while. I just need a few things. I was telling my wife today, we need to go to the store tomorrow just to grab a few things that we don't have, and that's it. My wife likes to look at stuff, so we're not looking. We're just going in and out, in and out. Um, so just be mindful of that, right? I think that's important. Glenn says, I got super worried tomorrow. Needs to be today. Yeah, well, it's already late. It's a little too late for that, but tomorrow is going to be good. Hey, Mike Tango Whiskey, good evening. Code red, already answered back. Answering there's no tomorrow. There's tomorrow, and what? Echoing Anderson, like Mr. David says, there's tomorrow in his Bible. Awesome. All right. So do that. Go grocery shopping as soon as you can. The next thing that what we should do is avoid hotspots, right? I know that in your inner city is where you're going to see all of this kind of chaos. And so if you live on the outskirts of the city, I don't live in a rural area. I live on the edge of the city, between the rural area. So I don't have to venture. We're quite a ways if things pop off. Are we close to stores still? Yes. Could things pop off there? Yes. So just be mindful of where you are. And if you watch your local news, if you pay attention to social media, and you begin to see hotspots, avoid those places like the plague, right? If you're going to the store next week, I hope you're not. Anybody else who's listening to this later, next week, If you see that the parking lot is full, yeah, I wouldn't go in there. I would not go in there. We have to be vigilant to hotspots, right? Avoid crowds. Secure. The next one here is secure your movement. I want to kind of stay here a little bit. Um, if you have to go anywhere, take somebody with you. This is what I'm encouraging you to do. Take somebody with you, and one of you has to be the lookout, right? Go as a team, shop as a team, and protect each other as a team, right? One or both of you or all of you need to be ready to go with your kinetic projectiles ready, right? All of that needs to be ready to go. You have to secure your movement, right? If you're going to the store, make sure you're not buying this huge basket full of stuff, because you can become a target. If you have people in the parking lot that are looking to steal from others, they'll see you with a huge basket of stuff, and now you're prime real estate for that to be taken away, right? Be mindful, right? Scott Hummer says freedom seed dispenser. Yes. Yeah, that's true. Um, Code Red says, that's right. All it takes is one to spread like wildfire. Yes. Um, Code Red says, y'all can just call me Red. It's my nickname all my life. Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, so we have to secure our movement. We got to make sure that we are not outwardly showing that we have all of these things, because then we become a target. Here's the next thing. If you're going to several places, right? Most cars today have tinted windows. So I will say, whatever you buy, make sure, and if you have tinted windows, make sure you have some kind of black cloth that when you put your stuff in the back or in the trunk or whatever, you cover it with a black cloth. Because we have an SUV, and all of our windows are tinted, and all of those windows you cannot see through unless you have a flashlight and your face is planted against the glass. Um, Even at that, if you have a black cloth, nobody can see what you have. So make sure, even if you don't have tinted windows, keep some kind of cloth blanket or something that you can hide your personal items under. I will tell you, because I live in this crazy city, that people's vehicles get broken into. One, because they know the vehicle might have because some vehicles come with safes for guns and things like that, and a lot of people don't lock them. And so people will break into those specific vehicles just to check to make sure that that safe is if it's accessible, then they can grab whatever's in it, right? Happened to a friend of mine. Um, Luckily, there wasn't anything in his safe in his truck. So make sure that you're locking those safes, that you are locking everything that's lockable inside your vehicle, and so that nobody can get to it or whatever that you have in there of value, right? Don't leave it on your seat. Don't leave it in between the seat. Put it under the seat, put it in the back under a black cloth, so that they just pass over your vehicle, because they're not just going to pop your window just to look if they can already see what's not in your vehicle, because that's time, noise, and they're trying to do it without being caught. So if it's not there, they're not going to touch your car. I will say that, unless you have one of those cars that everybody knows there's a safe in that truck or whatever, right? Um, let's see. Let's see. Vision for Bird says, my black cloth is my 145. I know, and he's so cute. Yeah, it's scary looking too. That's funny. Glenn says gun control means You hit what you shoot at. That is true. That is exactly true. That's awesome. So yeah, so we need to be careful of what we're putting in our vehicles and make sure that we can hide it, right? Um, car thefts are going to rise, right? If all of this mess ensues, car thefts are going to rise. So if you can, make sure there's nothing in your vehicle. Make sure it's always on you. Just saying, because we're going to see those things rise. We need to avoid um, um, routes where unrest may abound, right? If we know that there's a particular part of town that for sure unrest is going to happen there, we need to avoid it, right? This is why we talk about having a plan. An evacuation plan can also be a plan to avoid these certain areas, a plan to get to our family's home, even if this thing kind of ensues. And then we have to pay attention, because if this escalates to the point beyond um, police and into um, the military coming in, right? The National Guard, that is a whole nother plan that we're going to have to plan for, because at that point, there's going to be road closures, checkpoints, and things like that. So we have to plan for that kind of situation in the event that it escalates beyond police control, if that makes any sense. Tanya is Elijah. I am Elijah. Who knows it, Mr. Snow and Target. Welcome, Tanya. Welcome today. Code Red says they can have it. I have insurance. Yeah. All they will get is my GHB and gas mask. I'm not getting into a fight over that. Yeah, that is wise. Wise man sees danger and avoids it. That is right, Vision. That is right. 100% grit and grace says. Yeah. All right. The next thing is we need to strengthen our home security. So, my home, I have a visual front, and then in the back, I have four-legged visual times two, like vision. And so we need to strengthen our home. Maybe it's securing our door, right? Maybe it's securing our windows, because let's be honest, windows are easily accessible, right? So we need to be doing that. Communication is another thing that we need to be on top of, right? We need to have a communication plan. We talk a lot about that here on this channel. We also talk about situational awareness. That is so important for all of us to have. We need to have those things, right? I will encourage you, the next thing, do not confront, right? Do not confront looters. No, just get away from there. We shouldn't be in those places, right? You're putting yourself into harm's way if you do that, because these people are beyond niceties, they're beyond morale, and anything goes there, get out of there, right? You're only to protect your family, right? If you're in an area that all of a sudden that happens, protect your family at all costs. Get out of there, right? The next thing is that I want to leave tonight is help where you can safely, right? So we are stewards. You've heard me say this before. We are stewards of the things that God has provided for us, right? We prepare because it is our biblical stewardship to provide for our family, right? You've heard me say it. The Bible says, if you want to eat, you got to work. That's the Fernando version. Um, you know, the Bible also says that, you are a steward of what God has given you, right? So if God has given you the ability to work, you go to work every day, you make a paycheck, you're to be a good steward of those things, right? God is providing all of that for us. We do the physical work, but it is God who provided that job for us, right? And we work as if we work unto the Lord, right? In that. So what comes out of that is provision, and we are stewards of that provision, right? So, um, we prepare. I'm talking about me. We prepare, and we go to the store. We stock our pantry. We stock water. We stock essentials that we need um, at the home, right? Whatever is extra for me, whatever God has given me extra on what He has provided for our need. God is always going to provide a little extra. That little extra for me is to share with someone who does not have, right? Now, we're talking about this situation that could ensue in November, and we're thinking in that way that if stuff happens, all these things are going to happen, right? How do we live through? How do we help through that? Well, there are places like where I work where you can make a donation, and places like where I work help families in need. So if you have been blessed with an abundance so that you're not putting your family in harm's way by giving to somebody, and then all of a sudden they come back, hey, I want some more, give me some more, because you have given, right? It is better to give to churches that help um, uh, folks, so that way it's coming from there and it's not coming from you, and then you don't have, you know, 10 or 15 families outside your gate because you've given the one, and now they said, hey, this person has stuff, come over here, you know what I mean? So it's important to help, but help where you can do it safely, and it doesn't involve your home and your family, right? Because you are to protect your family. So it's better to give that to community relief or churches that are helping in some kind of relief for the community. And this is to protect you, because you don't want people knocking at your door because you helped one person, and that one person went and told 15 other people, and now they're taking over your stuff, right? So I was always taught by my father that, if somebody says, I need some gas, take them to the store and buy their gas, right? You're not handing them money, you're actually giving them what they want, right? And if it's, and I learned, and if they say, oh, no, 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 you can just give me the money, it's for other purposes. It really wasn't for gas. So you have discernment, right? Ask God for wisdom. That's wisdom. I've learned that from my father. And so, you're not putting your family in need, you're giving it to where this entity, this church, or this community relief is happening, and they are the ones that are handing those things out. So, it's important to, in this kind of scenario, to keep your family safe. And so that's what I would do. I wouldn't hand anybody anything in that kind of a situation, in that kind of poop hits the fan scenario. Even if that happens November 1st, even in that first week, second week, third, whatever, you know, give your abundance of blessings over to these places that are actually doing it, and it saves you from having people knocking at your door, right? Vision Preparedness says 100, Code Red says, and that is who needs it. Yeah, that's exactly right. And it keeps you and your family safe. So yeah. So all right, guys. I think we are coming close to the hour, and I just wanted to share that with you because I've been hearing a lot about this is going to happen and this is what you got to do, and I didn't hear a lot of things that we could do around this thing. And so, you know, I think that it's important for us to be ahead of the curve, go out tomorrow, not today because it's already late, right? A lot of people are in bed. You know, go out first thing in the tomorrow morning and get the things that you lack or things that you need for your home. And that way, when the weekend comes, we can actually stay out of harm's way. We can not be in any kind of hot zone where rioting is happening or all this kind of stuff. So make sure that you share that with your family and you get them prepared, even if they, you know, don't aren't in a preparedness mindset like you are. Just encourage them to be ready because this might and could happen. So um, be vigilant, be prepared is what I always say. So um, yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us tonight. All of you guys that have been here, Mike Tango Whiskey, celebrating farm life. Thank you guys for joining us. Code Red Trauma, and then all of our usual fam. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to the channel, and I'm just really I really want to look at things differently than everyone else is. And, you know, I'm always going to want you to prepare a plan for everything. So we can't prepare for everything, but we can be ready for anything. And so if that's rain, we're ready for rain. If it's, hurricane, we're ready for that, right? So if it comes out of the blue, we might not be ready, but at least we have some kind of an awareness, right? That we can jump in some way. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. Remember, and don't ever forget that I'm praying for all of you guys. Thank you for joining us. If you're new tonight, make sure you subscribe and let's get this shared out so that we can continue to build our community. In the link below, there are all the links to our channel. Make sure that you go and subscribe to all of them so that we can get this thrown out further through the algorithm. And I love you guys, and I'm praying for all of you. Have a great night. Thank you for joining us on the live stream, and look forward to seeing you in tomorrow morning's video. God bless everyone. See you later.